Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to unpack the incredible true story of Yasuke, a man who traveled from Africa to become the first and only foreign-born samurai right in the middle of 16th century Japan's chaotic civil wars.
So you've probably heard his name, right? Maybe from that Netflix anime or all the recent talk about the new Assassin's Creed game. But who was the actual man behind the modern legend?
To get to the truth, we really have to peel back the layers of myth built up over centuries. And while the legend of some unstoppable ninja slayer is pretty cool, the documented history of a foreign retainer who absolutely captivated one of Japan's most powerful warlords is, honestly, even more fascinating. All right, let's dive in. And our story, believe it or not, doesn't even start in Japan. It starts on the massive, sprawling trade routes of the 16th century. This was a whole new era of global connection, being forged by Portuguese ships and Jesuit missionaries.
Now, he wasn't just there for the sights. Yasuke arrived as part of a really high-stakes mission, and his job was to protect a top Jesuit official, a guy named Alessandro Valignano. And you have to understand, they were walking into the incredibly dangerous world of Sengoku period Japan. I mean, this was a time of absolute chaos, 100 years of non-stop, brutal civil war.
And what's really wild is that his origins are a total mystery. I mean, where did he even come from? Was he from Mozambique, like some of the early texts suggest, or maybe South Sudan, which would help explain his incredible height? Other theories point to Ethiopia, or even find linguistic clues in his name. The real answer is, we just don't know for sure.
So in March of 1581, Yasuke shows up in the capital, Kyoto, and he causes, well, an absolute sensation. You have to remember, for most people in Japan, this was the very first time they had ever laid eyes on a person of African descent. The Jesuit records? I mean, they describe a literal riot. People were breaking down doors, they were crushing each other just to get a look at him. And all this chaos, it eventually gets the attention of the most powerful and, frankly, most feared warlord in all of Japan, Oda Nobunaga, who immediately summoned Yasuke to his residence.
So, Nobunaga, who was known for kind of breaking all the rules, was totally skeptical. He thought Yasuke was just covered in black ink. He actually made his servants try to scrub it off. Can you imagine? But when he realized this was his real natural skin, his disbelief just turns into pure fascination. The chronicles say he was super impressed by Yasuke's strength, which they said was like 10 men, and his good, calm demeanor.
And his physical presence alone, it was just astonishing for the time. We actually have a diary from another samurai that puts his height at 6 shaku and 2 bu. Now, what does that mean? That's about 188 centimeters, or a towering 6 foot 2 inches.
And just to give you a sense of what that looked like, the average Japanese man back then was around 157 centimeters, so 5'2". Yasuke would have literally been a giant, towering over everyone, including the great warlord Nobunaga himself.
Nobunaga was so taken with him that he basically convinces the Jesuits to leave Yasuke in his service. And then he formally brings him into his inner circle. And he does it with 3 really important steps: a formal request, giving him a Japanese name, which was a huge sign of becoming a loyal retainer, and finally, granting him all the key symbols of his new status.
And this is the really crucial point, you guys. These weren't just gifts. In the super chaotic social structure of the Sengoku period, getting a sword, a steady paycheck, your own house, and the super rare privilege of dining with your lord, those were the official markers of a samurai. By every account from that time, Yasuke was one of them. Full stop.
So, Yasuke's new gig is Nobunaga's personal weapon bearer and bodyguard. I mean, it puts him right at the absolute center of power. But tragically, that also means he's got a front row seat for its sudden and incredibly violent end.
On June 21st, 1582, everything falls apart. Nobunaga is betrayed by one of his own generals. He's trapped, completely outnumbered, and he performs seppuku, ritual suicide. Yasuke is right there, fighting to defend the temple as it burns. After his lord's death, he manages to escape and makes one last stand with Nobunaga's son before, finally, he's captured.
Okay, so when Yasuke is dragged before the traitor, Akechi Mitsuhide, he's not executed, which, was pretty much the standard operating procedure for a defeated enemy. Instead, Mitsuhide says this really strange, perplexing thing. He spares his life because he's a foreigner, calling him a beast who just didn't get Japanese customs.
And historians have been scratching their heads over this for centuries. What did he mean? Was this some kind of dehumanizing mercy? Like, you're not even part of our code of honor? Or was it a slick political move to avoid ticking off the Europeans? Or maybe, just maybe, Mitsuhide was so completely bewildered by this African samurai that he just didn't know what else to do.
So after his capture, Yasuke gets returned to the Jesuits, and then poof, he just vanishes from history. But in our time, in the 21st century, his story has exploded back to life, and boy has it become a source of intense debate.
Right. So the modern debate kind of splits into two camps. You've got the popular history version versus the strict academic one. Was he this legendary warrior fighting ninjas, or a trusted retainer whose combat record we just don't have? Was Nobunaga some kind of visionary, or was he just a pragmatist who was fascinated by someone so different? The truth is, the original documents just don't give us those juicy details.
And you can see this tension playing out right now with all the controversy around the new Assassin's Creed game. Suddenly, this 16th century guy has become a modern flashpoint, kicking off huge conversations about historical accuracy, creative freedom, and hey, who gets to be the hero of the story?
So, you gotta ask, why? Why does this short, incomplete story from more than 400 years ago still grab us so much today? What is it about Yasuke that just sticks with us?
Well, his legacy started practically right away. Take a look at this famous painted screen from the early 1600s. It shows a sumo match, and a lot of historians are convinced that this powerful, dark-skinned wrestler is none other than Yasuke, immortalized in art just a few decades after he served. And over the centuries, man, he has just transformed. He went from being this historical footnote to a powerful cultural symbol. He's been the hero in kids' books, the subject of satirical novels by really famous authors, and now he's the star of a Netflix anime with mechs and magic. I mean, talk about an upgrade. But here's the thing, the real documented story is just as amazing as any of the fiction. His life completely shatters that old idea of a totally isolated Japan. He is living proof of this short, incredible moment in history that was all about global connection and a kind of radical social mobility, where a total outsider could rise up and join the warrior class.
So, was he a samurai? The historical record is pretty clear. He was granted the status and the tools of one, but maybe his real, enduring power isn't just about what we know for sure. Maybe it's in the questions his incredible life makes us ask, about the stories we thought we knew and the kind of world we want to imagine for ourselves.